going to take some of those blocks that we made last week, and we're going to turn them into a few projects. First, we're going to do a kitchen towel. It could be a kitchen towel, bath towel, whatever, any kind of decorative towel. We're going to do a pot holder. We're going to do a book cover for a notebook, and we're going to do a bookmark. So that is our 4 projects we're going to do this week with what we made last week. The rest of the blocks we made last week, I'm going to use next month in a quilt itself. Okay, so we're going to get started here. The first thing we're going to look at is the kitchen towel and the pot holder. Now, this is what I'm going to use for my pot holder. I have 2 layers. I'm not so sure I'm going to use 2 layers of batting. That's awful thick. I probably will end up just using 1. I actually used 2 of my blocks that I made, one for the front, one for the back, so it'll kind of be reversible. That'll be kind of neat. I will use regular 2.5-inch binding, just like you'd use on a quilt, to finish this and to make the little hook to hang it from. Also, we will be adding a border onto this kitchen towel. Now, I've already ironed it in. I ironed in about 1/4 inch on both sides. Whatever width you want. This just happens to be the width that I had available to use. So this is the width that I am going to use. I ironed in about 1/4 inch. Like I said, it's a good firm iron. And from there, we will go and finish the sides together. I'll show you how to do that. So let's take a second and look at this back wall. There's 2 examples of towels, and there's 2 examples of pot holders. I'm going to step to this side so I can show y'all a little better. All right, so this is just some little blocks and pieces that I had that I pieced together and made this little border, and I appliqued this little butterfly on it. And then I did the same thing, the pot holders, just one of those blocks we made last week. And I did use a piece of towel on the back with a piece of Insul Bright in the middle. And I appliqued a little butterfly and flower to kind of make these match, okay? Then this is an older towel that I had. And the reason I have this one here, this was a scrap, last piece I had. But I wanted to try this snap closure. See if y'all can see that. And then this also is just a regular block that I put toweling on the back. So this snap closure is really kind of neat. Just like that, your towel comes off. And just like this, your towel, let's move this over, it's kind of caught there, sorry. It stays on. You're not going to knock it on the ground. So I'm going to bring this back over. Okay guys, so in this snap closure, these are those new little snaps that you get. It's this little tool here. And it comes, usually you get a whole set, the tool and a whole bunch of the snaps. It comes with, it's 4 pieces. So it's 2 of the flat pieces that have the little pokey things in them. And then you have a snap and then the part to be snapped into. And that's what you'll use to make this. All right, so here it is. Let's look at it like this. So what you do is, your towel is like this. Here's the rail. Let's just use this for a rail. You'll go behind the rail, about 2/3 down, it says. And then you will, obviously your rail's not going to be 3 inches wide. And then you're going to just snap it together like that. And then you'll just give it a little shake. And there you go. You'll have your towel all hooked up. And it won't fall off on the ground, which is a positive thing in most of our houses. So anyway, we're going to go over to the sewing machine and we're going to tackle this section first. Before we do that, we're going to run over here to the ironing board and we're going to finish these corners because this is just one quick sew down. Okay, so rather than go to the ironing board, I'm going to bring the ironing board to the table so y'all can see what I'm doing. All right, so I'm taking the towel and I'm determining what is the top and what is the bottom. Well, these towels came from Burlington and they do have a hanger on them already. So I'm going to call that the top. So this will be our bottom, okay? So I'm taking the piece that I've fold it in 1/4 inch on top and bottom, lining it up. Now you have two choices here. You can bring it all the way down to the bottom edge like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. So if that's what you want to do, do it. I find this is a little thick here to actually sew through, so I don't really like doing that to my sewing machine. So I usually put mine right along the top of that piece. I kind of just eye it up where it's about even on each side, and I start putting some pins in it, okay? And I'm just gonna put my pins this way because I am forever putting the pin facing the wrong direction, and then I have a mess when I get to the sewing machine. I don't know why. I guess because I never really was good at sewing clothing or anything, so I never really learned that, which direction to put the pin in. So we're just gonna do them this way, and then we don't have to worry about it. All right, guys, I'm just going along the top edge. So if the edge is a little crooked, I'm going a little crooked. I'm gonna leave that there. Now I'm gonna put a few across this top edge. Let me turn this around so my hands are not constantly in your way. Just kind of smooth this out. Now, the ends. So this is what I do with my ends. I turn my towel over so my back side is up, okay? Now I can see my edge. Scoot this down a little bit so there's room there for the iron. Ow. So I take it and I fold it in a 45-degree on one corner, just enough to hold it. Then I'm going to do the same thing down here. Now this one's going to be a little bulky because it looks like one of the seams had come together in the crazy quilt in there. Okay. Then I take this. It gets me my line. I flip it over. I turn those corners in, and I flip this end in. Okay. And I just work with it until it is where I want it to be on this corner. I want it to be nice and straight. Let me put a pin in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to put one pin here. I'm using the short pins because the seam allowance isn't very wide, and I really wanted to catch that seam allowance. Okay. Now, fold that back in and tuck it under. There we go. I'm not so sure this corner is going to be perfect like that because there's a lot of bulk in that corner, but let's try it. So let's fold that in. Oops, don't need an iron to hit my table. There we go. Now that's going to be a very bulky corner to have to deal with, but I think I'll use a longer pin because I don't think I'm going to be able to turn that pin to do that, but we'll get it. Ow. Okay, now let's do the same thing on this side. Let's flip it over. See, when you do that, when you fold them flat, it should give you the edge of your towel like that. Sorry, the other side just didn't do it that way because of the bulk on that one corner. That's what you're looking for. And I know there are a million ways to do this, and I'm sure some of you have some excellent suggestions that are better than this. And if you do, put them in the comments below so we can all see it and learn. Okay, and then this corner here, because it's a little, the towel itself is a little pulled up, I'm just going to work it back a little bit. And we may repin that corner because we have to have something to pin this to. So let's repin that, and then just let any bulk out right here. There we go. And that's how I do mine. It's not fancy. It's just the way I do it. But it's fast and it's efficient. And that's what I do. And then I just go and I sew all the way around it, about 1/8 of an inch off the corner. And that's it. So this is ready to go to the sewing machine. And that's exactly where we are headed. Okay, so now we're here at the sewing machine. And I have my machine set up with a kind of rust color thread and my walking foot, because this is a little bulky. The towel's a little bulky. I keep sticking myself with that pin. That's why you keep seeing me flinch. And the pot holder is going to be a little bulky. So walking foot is my best option. Now, if you do not have a walking foot, it is okay. You're used to making those adjustments on your sewing machine. Just do what you would normally do if you were going to make a little quilt sandwich. That's what you want to do. However you adjust your sewing machine for that is probably what you need to do for this. Okay, so since the towel is here and I keep poking myself, I'm ready to get that out of the way. So let's get started on the towel first. So I am going to start on a side. And the reason I start on a side is because most towels, once they're up there, that is kind of flipped under. So it makes more sense to start on the side, because if you've got a little overlap or something's not quite pretty, it'll be to the back side, okay? I mean, that happens. Now I'm going to just set this up here, and I'm going to put my walking foot on the edge, but I'm going to move my needle position closer, probably as far as it'll go. Yep. Don't zoom through this. There is a possibility, you know, that it might be a little bulky and it might want to do something stupid. So just take your time and just go slow. Okay, so there's a pin, and I am going to pull that one out. There we go. I'm not worried about back stitching at that point. Simply because it's not, I'm going to run over it when I come back up the other side. Okay. Now we're coming up on this corner, and it is going to be bulky, so I'm going to go slowly. And I may have to give it a little tug to get it there. I don't like doing that. I don't think it's going to get no closer than that. Okay. I'm going to turn that around. I am also going to be prepared to give it a little tug to go in this direction and get it going back. There we go. I really hate doing that, but if it's real bulky, we don't have a choice. Now, you can just do this with a regular piece of fabric that you like. You don't have to use scraps. And then again, you may have some scraps that are big enough that could do this. You could put some long strips together and do a strip quilt like that. This is more about the process. Okay, I broke that needle, and it actually hit me in my face. So if it's extra bulky, don't do what I just did. I'm going to cut the film here so I can get this fixed up. Okay, so what happened was this is what I was talking about. I don't like sewing through this part. So this end of the towel was sewn higher. So I just picked those threads out, and I'll go back and put those back in with some white thread after a while. But I did that so I could move it out of the way and I could finish my corner, because this is not all bulky like that. But because of the thickness of the towel finishing, it became bulky like that. So anyway, my face is fine. It did pop me in my face, and I think it's kind of put a little cut in my lip. I mean, it's just a needle, so it's not going to be a big cut anyway. I'm glad I have my glasses on, and that's where we're going to leave that. So just be careful with things like that, because, you know, accidents can happen. So I'm just going to kind of be cautious here and roll that instead of letting the machine do it, because you know there's a lot of power on that machine, and I don't want to make the machine mad again. Okay, now I can put the needle down. We should be good to go. Sorry about that, guys, but I told y'all, if I make mistakes, I'll put it in there. So that's why I don't recommend putting your decorative piece on top of that bottom like that, because, well, you saw, it can be a mess. Nobody likes a broken needle. That one was broken 4 pieces, so it was bad. One piece hit me, and okay, so we're going to be cautious on this corner, because this corner is bulky. So we're going to make sure that we do not get anywhere near that outside edge including the bulk from this, because that'll just be a disaster. And when I get there, which I'm getting there, I am going to lift. I'm going to lift my presser foot just a hair, and I'm going to hand crank that sucker in place. You heard it. Now, it probably would have broke my needle if I would have left it like that. And I think that's going to be close enough on that end. There we go. So now I'm going to turn it. I'm going to hand crank it a couple stitches going in this direction. There's one. Okay. And she's wanting to move, so we're good. And now we just have to try to make that match up there. I'm going to do a back stitch to lock it in place and cut it. Okay, so yeah, this corner's a little wonky. Like I said, corners don't matter that much because nobody's going to see them when you put them up there. Now, if you're making this for a gift, try to think about the bulk on your corners so you don't run into that. Maybe you could cut yours a different way if you're using something like this. There you go. It's pretty easy. Sorry about the needle breaking. That doesn't happen every time. All right, so let's put this on the side and let's grab our pot holder. Now, I think, like I said, I think I'm just going to use one layer of batting because I think it's going to be too bulky. Because you got to remember, this is 2 layers of fabric, and then a middle. So that's 4. That's 5 layers right there. So if I did the a couple outline stitches of the crazy quilt area, that's not going to match on each side. I'm not going to do it. So I think I'm just going to just grab something and just put a little bit of stitching right toward the center and not care about it, just so I have something to hold that middle in place. I guess I chose this side, huh? Or it chose me. I usually just put a little bit of stitching in the middle somewhere. You don't have to. I have some that I didn't until it's a stop. Well, y'all, I looked up and we got sunshine, and I am one thankful lady because we have had snow for the last couple of days here. So it don't really look that bad on the back where I sewed it. You can't even see it on this side. So there we go. Let me get this thread out of here. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, this is it's very simple. It's going to appear to be very complicated, but it's not complicated. So we're going to get our binding, and we're going to choose a corner. What corner do you want to be your top? That's the corner you want to start at. Now, if you had directional fabric, it would be important because you don't want your doll upside down or your chicken or whatever it is upside down. You want to think about that. This doesn't matter, so I'm going to just start where I start. We're going to lay that, well, flip it over. So I'm going to call this my back side, okay? Because it's not as pretty back here. So we're going to flip it over to your back side. We're going to put that binding all the way up to the corner. And we are going to sew about 1/4 inch, which I know on my walking foot, if I sew all the way to the furthest right in needle position and lined up with the outside edge of my walking foot is right at 1/4 inch. Okay? So I'm just going to try to run it right there. Now, as I approach the corner, I want to stop at about 1/4 inch. I'm going to give myself a back tack. And cut that thread. And then I'm just going to fold it forward. So away from the pot holder. And then back toward the pot holder. Kind of giving it a 45-degree turn there. Put it back underneath the sewing machine. I'm going to skip in about 1/4 inch to get started. Thereabouts. And then we're going to go on down to the next corner. we're going to do that on 3 corners. So I'm just going to finish this up here, and I'll meet y'all back when we get down to that last corner where we first started. All right, so we're here. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to lift the pressure foot and get this piece here that we started with sewing out of the way, okay? And we're going to sew up to, but not crossing where this seam began. So, let's see. We can't show you. So, right here is where that seam is, okay? So, I'm going to sew up to here. But I do not want to cross this. So you can stop a stitch ahead of it, just don't stop on top of it. If you do, take it out. Okay. Now, we got that out of here. So the next thing we want to do is we need our wrap tail to hang it from. So I just put me about 6.5. I just put this up underneath here like that, and this ruler is about 6.5 inches, so 5-6 inches, somewhere in there. Just depends on, you can always chop it off if it's too long when you get through. We'll put this out of our way because we're through with that. Now our next step, it's going to seem kind of weird, okay guys, but it's not. It just seems that way. All right, so what we need to do here is we need, I gotta turn it this way so I can see it. You gotta flip it over. So flip it over. And we're gonna flip all this back over so we can see it. Now, see, when you flip it, you kind of got this funny looking spot here. Let's see. All right, you got this funny looking spot here. You see that? What we are going to do is we are going to iron this flat all along here. So you're going to take this edge and you're going to basically fold it in that 1/4 inch that you sewed all the way around and iron it. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold it in about 1/4 inch. The whole length of it. Let's see if my iron will reach that far. Yes, it will. Now, guys, I want that good and ironed, okay? I want it to be cooperative. So I'm going to give it a little bit of my magic spray starch stuff that I concocted. You hear it kind of, it's wet. You heard it? Go shh. Okay. Now, we did that so we can do, oops, so we can do this. Let's take off our top here and get us some pins. Next thing we want to do is we want to clamp this in place. You want to make sure that as you're clamping it in place, that you're covering that stitch line, this stitch line. Clamp it on this side. Let's go ahead and clamp it on that side. It's just a little easier to do it this way. And I'll go ahead and put one more there. It's pretty bulky right there. Oh, because there's a clamp behind it. I was thinking, man, how am I going to sew over that? Where did that come from? Okay. So, all right, I'm making sure I'm on camera. So I'm going to take this side Smoosh it down flat to be even with this outer edge, and then just let that edge come right back, and the corners will match up, and you'll just put that little clamp right there, and you'll be good to go. Now this side. We are going to take this here. Let's put one more clamp here. Fix these out. I'm not OCD, but sometimes I think I might be. Now this end here is raw, right? So we're going to take it and we're going to make sure it goes inside of all that we did. The 1/4 inch on the back side were folded in, and this. Now I'm going to switch to pins because I want to be close when I come across here and do this. And with clamps, you can't get that close as you can. All right, let me put these back up. Set that over there out the way. So here we go. What are we going to do with this tail? We're going to keep this piece in and this piece on top, okay? We're going to try to line them up even. And we're just going to pin it. And I'm going to pin it sideways. You can pin it long ways, however you want to pin it. But you might want to pin it. Oops. Do that a little better. And I use quite a few pins, so I'm not going to lie to you. Okay? Just kind of work your way down it. And we need another one right here. Now, the end. Okay, guys, so what I'm trying to do is make this end look finished. So that's the goal in all this. So if we fold it up here, and then we fold it in here like so. Let me put this pin here in, the back end. Now we have this end. It's kind of in there. I'm just going to take that little tail that's showing and tuck it up inside there. I'm not worried if it's perfect. As y'all see, perfection's not always my main thing. Okay, so now we have this little tail here. It looks kind of weird. All right, so our goal is we're going to sew down this tail. Come here, sew all the way around, and we're going to end up back at the back here where we joined, okay? I'm going to sew from the front because in the back, my thread may or may not show or miss or hit or whatever. But in the front, I want it to be pretty. So, I'm going to get started here. And what's our stitch length? I think that's pretty good. And guys, we're just wanting to sew right along the edge. So you may want some kind of stiletto. I don't know what you might want to use. Good, it caught. Okay, so there we go. And I'm just going to sew right along that edge. It looks complicated. It really isn't, because I'll be honest with y'all, this little tail, it wants to do that. It wants to make that fold because of the way you sew it on. Oops, let me straighten that out. Okay. Okay, now we're going to take that one out. Last pin. Get this purple thing here. Let's use it for a finger. It's a little bulky right there, so just take your time. And now we're ready to go. We just want to try to maintain the same distance around on the front, all the way around. Okay, so I stopped right there. We got all this like this. So this is your front and this is your back. We're going to take it and we're going to turn it on the back, and you're going to lay this straight. Now you can have it hang straight like that. I usually take mine and twist it just a hair like this, and that's why I wanted that end finished. And then I flip it over to the front. Okay. And now we have a little loop-de-loop. And I'm going to sew an angled stitch right across there. I got to lift it because it got caught on my fabric. And then I'm going to do a reverse. And y'all, that should be enough to hold it. I mean, we're not going to be hanging from monkey bars with it or something. Okay. Back's not bad. And there you go. That's good and tight. It's on from the back. It's on from the front. And that's that. Okay, guys. So that is that finished. Okay, so the next thing we're going to work on is our book cover. Your book cover is going to need a piece of your crazy quilt, or it could just be plain fabric. It doesn't matter. This is what we have, so this is what we're going to work with, okay? I'm going to make this the bottom. This piece here is 18 by 11 and a half inches, okay? One solid piece. So is the lining. Cut the same exact size, okay? This piece here is for a pencil cover. It's cut 4.5 by 7. All I did was fold the piece of fabric in half, sewed right sides together, sewed here, left a gap, sewed here, finished it off, turned it inside out, and there is a little turning piece here. And I'm going to put this here about 1.5 inches in from one edge and 1.5 inches up from the bottom. And this will be able to hold a pen or pencil. That will be sewn on first. Then these pieces here are 7 by 11.5 finished. I put 2 together, so my pieces were a little bigger because I had to allow for the seam allowance. But I'm going to have these will be sewn on each end. We will be sewing with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And the part that you want to show, you need to make it face the fabric, the pretty side of your fabric, okay? Then we'll take our lining fabric, put it on top of that. So all the way around, we'll leave an opening at the bottom back side for turning. We'll turn it out, and this will be completed. It will fit one of these little notebooks like this. I know a lot of people use these. I'm going to use this to keep track of presents that I make throughout the year. And then the last thing that we're going to work on together will be to make some bookmarks that can be used anywhere, and we'll be making those out of scraps too. So let's go back to the sewing machine, make the cover, and then we'll come back and we will make the bookmarks. Okay, so it's time to go ahead and sew our book cover here. So first thing I'm going to do is sew on the pencil holder. I'll sew along close to the edge, and that will close up the opening where we turned it from. I've switched to white thread. I'm going to back stitch at the beginning and at the ending. Okay, guys. And so that puts our pencil holder in place. Let's just see here. Pin. You're just fine in there. Can fit all the way down, or you can just hook it over the top. Or maybe not. That one's too tight, so anyway. But there you go. Maybe this one. This one's got a looser hook. There we go. So it's a little deep, so you could make it a little shorter if you want it. All right, so the next step is to put these two ends in place. So we're going to put this end in, and we're going to put this cover over. And I'm just going to put a couple pins in there simply because I want to keep that middle piece from slipping. I'll just throw a couple pins here. I don't think it's necessary to pin the whole piece. Just turn it around on this side. Remember, I said the piece that you want to show is the piece you want next to the front of your book cover. I'm going to go ahead and pin this end in place. Now what I'm going to do here is I want to leave my opening here. So I'll start sewing at this point, but I want to give myself a pin to know when to stop. I'm just going to stick a pin in there so I'll know when to stop. I'm going to put on my, nope, I'm just going to put on my regular foot. I'm going to be sewing with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I'm just going to take a couple stitches and reinforce it. And then I'm just going to whip around here. Okay guys, so we're just going to snip these corners. I'm going to trim them out a little bit, not just snipping the corners, but just kind of go along there a little bit, just to take a little bit more bulk out of the corners for turning purposes. Plus we've got that other piece in there too that's kind of thick. So let's go over here where we're going to turn it. We're just going to take this seam, and I am going to try something I saw somebody do. Let's see if this. They took and they ironed it back. Well, they didn't iron it back. They finger pressed it back. But I think I'm going to try that. They just took this right here, and they just finger pressed it kind of in place where it would have needed to go. Flip this over like this. Do the same thing for this side. Just kind of finger press it in place. I don't know if that will or won't help, but we're going to see. All right. Ooh, that's a little hole. I got big hands. I got wide hands. Little hands, but they're wide. Okay, see if I can get my hand in there. Whew. It might be tough to get it back out. All right, let's get this turned. So these corners here, see, need to be turned and then turned. See, see, they look like that, but then you got to flip this over too, and that'll be what keeps it all nice and pretty. I don't know. Let's just grab something to see if we can't get these corners turned out a little bit. So there we go. We're gonna have to go and iron it real good, put all the edges in. Let's just give it a dry run here. Don't know what I knocked down. So should be able to put this in this side, put this in this side. Oops, it might be a little big. I think the top and bottom are pretty good. And then when we close it, oh yeah, it's a little big. So since it's that much too big, I think I cut it 18. So you'll need to cut it 17. You'll need to cut yours 17 in width instead of 18 in width, or length, whichever way. This way. this way to this way, cut it 17. What I'm going to do to mine to help take up some of that bulk or overage, I'm going to obviously fold this in, but I'm going to go real quick to the big ironing board and iron this flat, and I'm going to come back and put a stitch all the way around it to try to make it a little tighter. Okay, so if you can tell it here, that's about how much too big it is. So if we get out the ruler, I know y'all can't see it, but it's about an inch. So seriously, if you cut it 17 instead of 18, it should be just fine. I think the height is fine. I'm gonna go along here and sew a 1/4 inch seam all the way around the whole thing. Put my 1/4 inch foot on. And that'll help tighten it up just a little bit. I'm not gonna worry about the rest of the give. We'll just let that be. Now, that's so much better. It's still a little big. So now, yeah, if it was cut about an inch smaller, you would be just perfect. I like the top and bottom though. I like the edges protected. Just throw a pin in here. And there we go. So if I were to make one, again, to fit this, I would cut it 17 long by 11.5 tall. Everything else I would leave the same. You could cut your pencil case a little shorter, but you don't want that rubbing the bottom and wearing it out either. So other than that, so just 1 inch less this way. And we will go back over, we'll look at everything, and we'll make the bookmark, okay? Okay, so here's our towel and our hot pocket. It's all done. Like I said, this is in good, this holds good. You don't have to worry about it, okay? So this is all done. Put that on the side. So let's talk about this. I did sew that corner up by hand. So if you would want to add the snaps. Now this is just the snaps I have. You can do other snaps if that's what you would prefer. They do make different kind of snaps. What you're going to do is you're going to kind of line these corners up. Obviously, this was not sewn straight. So you're going to want to awl, and you're going to want to choose a spot. You're going to go in. You're going to make sure you can see that hole, okay, guys? You want to go through both sides so they'll line up. So on this side, we'll put the flat side out to the outside, and we'll put this piece to the inside like that. And then we're just going to grab this thing here, and we're going to make sure before we close it that the button itself is sitting down in the little black thing. Once it's done, you're just going to give it a good squeeze. And there you go. It's all in place. So since this one is on this side, we're going to put the button, the pin from the other side. Okay, so the little pokey point will come out on this side. We're going to do the same thing. Before we put it in, before we squeeze, we're going to make sure the little white part is sitting down inside of that black thing completely, or whatever yours looks like. Squeeze good. There we go. And then we'll just snap. Oh, they snap good. Snap. Snap. That way, when we put them across the bar, here's our bar. Put it around the back side. Right, there's the stove handle. And you're just gonna take, one side to the other side. Like I said, your handle will be a lot thinner than that. And there you go, guys. It'll wrap like that. And it'll be hanging on there and not falling off, okay? And that's just how easy that was. If you're asking me where you can get these little snaps from, I think you can get sets from Amazon. I believe that's where this came from. This was a gift, so I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure they have little sets from Amazon. Quilt stores might have them. Okay, guys, so let's look at this again. Like I said, when you hold it up like this, you can pinch it. Remember, that's double. That's about a 1/2 inch. So 17 by 11.5, everything else is the same. It should be perfect. All right, but I'm gonna leave mine like it is. I'm not gonna worry about it. It's not bad. You know, it might slip out sometimes, but it don't matter. But this also gives me room to put stuff in the pages, and it can get a little bulkier and not have a problem with that either. The pen works just fine in there. Now, the last thing, let's talk about this. This is a no-sew project. Why am I doing this? I saw this one morning while I was just laying in bed watching TV before everybody wakes up because, well, I kind of don't sleep as much as everybody else in the house. Now, what this is it's actually a little paper clip inside of there, and you will slip this between the two pieces of paper here over your page. All right, so let's look at that. Let's do the first one with paper. So I just tore my edges, just put them on the edge of a table and just tore it. Like I said, this is watercolor paper. You should be able to see the thickness there. And then this is just a piece of fabric that I put fusible web on. So if you just score the back of your fusible web, it should peel right off, okay? And all I'm gonna do is line that up like that and make sure it's all right, okay? Let me get my iron hot. Okay, so first step, you're gonna fold your paper in half. Fold it in half. If you've got one of those bone folders, use that. I don't, so I just use my fingers. Then you're gonna slide your paper clip on, okay? Leave it up a little bit, kind of center it. Then you're gonna take this piece here, and this is gonna go over it. So you need, is that right? Yes, that's right. So what you need to do is you need to cut a little hole right in the center of this piece of fabric. So I'm gonna finger press it in the center. Open it up. And I'm just gonna cut a little, like, I think the hole only needs to be like 3/4 of an inch or something. It's very small. Y'all, we gotta take a peek. Yep, I'm doing it right. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is just push that up through that hole just a little bit. You see how I did that? Then I'm just gonna kind of straighten it out. Now, we're gonna take this little piece of fabric here that I kind of tore up the edges. You could, if you can just push your paper clip in. Push your paper clip back in, and you can just let the paper clip hold it in place. Like I did these. I don't know if I really like that. I think I like it better with a little tie. I don't know why. So, there's a little more bulk. But anyway, there you go. That is simple and easy. And guys, it's gonna the paper clip's gonna show because it's fabric. Now the ones I saw on the internet, the paper clip did not show because obviously they were using paper with paper, and you can use paper with paper, but I don't have any paper to use like that. So there you go, okay? And you're just gonna open up like that, and you can just slide it on your page. Okay, and there's your bookmark. And you can use it, and it's pretty good. See, it pulls pretty good. I didn't use a bigger paper clip because I was using fabric. If I was going to use paper on paper, you could use one of those bigger paper clips that comes way down here. But you can see this paper clip enough where I didn't want to have to do another. Plus I used white, so that was probably not the smartest thing. I like the way this one looks here. It's on there nice and tight. And it gives me a place to bookmark. All right, guys, so anyway, that's just a little something you could do. This would be, if you had good paper scraps, that'd be great little gifts to add to anything that you want to give to somebody for, you know, Christmas or whatever. Well, let me know what y'all think. I really like doing the towels and the hot pots. And the book cover was not bad. It was just 1 inch too big. Just 1 inch too big. So just cut yours 1 inch smaller and it should work fine. And then these are great little journal-bulling books because people love journals. They like to write things. They like to write their ideas. They like to write their sketches. So if we did that, so let's look at that real quick. Hold on a second. So I said 17 inches, right? So how long is this thing? It's 15. So I guess if you was just going to cover anything, if you lay it out completely flat, that includes your binding now. That's going to be 15 inches. So allow for about 2 inches bigger than the book. If your book had a thick binding, I think you would need to like do here, do the thickness, and then do the other side to figure your length out. And then this here is 9 3/4, and we cut it 11 3/4. So basically add 2 inches. Whatever you're doing, add 2 inches, and it should come out pretty close to what you want it to be. All right, guys, well, that's it for this week. Next week, we'll be doing the block of the month again. That'll be block 4 for March. And then after that, we're going to work on a panel quilt, but we'll be using some of our crazy quilt blocks that we made last week. Okay, until next week, remember to always be yourself and have a very, very blessed week.